Hey you guys, so I wanted to sit down today and make an updated foundation, highlight, and contour routine video today because the last one I uploaded was about 7 months ago and I've definitely switched a lot of stuff up since then. I'm using some more products that I just love a lot more than the ones I used in that video. So I just felt like it was time to make a new one and to kind of update you on the stuff that I've been really liking for my foundation routine. So this is basically what I wear on a day-to-day basis, not if I'm just like hanging out around the house, obviously, but if I'm actually like going out somewhere, doing something. So this is, I guess, what I would call like my flawless finish, long-lasting foundation routine. So I'm just gonna hop right into it. If you guys want to see what I do to my face on a day-to-day basis, then just keep watching. Okay, so the foundation that I wear pretty much on a day-to-day basis is the Rimmel Lasting Finish 25-Hour Foundation, and I am in the shade 100 Ivory. I love this foundation. It is probably one of my favorites, if not my ultimate favorite. So I'm just gonna dot this around my face. My face is kind of red today because I used a face mask that I actually really like, but sometimes it just really makes my face super red. So anyways, that's why it's looking a little crazy. Anyways, I just dab this all over my face like this. I feel like this helps me get the most coverage, and I still have a little bit left over on my hand, but I'm gonna use that in a minute. So I'm gonna take my foundation brush and I'm just going to stipple this on. So I'm actually going to take my Beauty Blender to this too afterwards, but I just like to use the brush at first just to kind of make sure that I get the foundation all over my face, and then I blend it into my skin with the Beauty Blender. So I'm just kind of dabbing along my face, trying to cover the whole surface of my face, and then I'll blend it out later. And the reason I don't just go in with my Beauty Blender and that's it is because I feel like I use too much product when I use the Beauty Blender by itself. It kind of just soaks up a lot of the foundation and I don't really like that. So this foundation isn't super matte at all, but it's also not really dewy. It just kind of gives your face a nice natural looking glow, but I am going to set it with some powder anyways just because I don't like how dewy it is right now. So like I said, I still have the rest on my hand, so I'm just going to take the Beauty Blender, dab it in a little bit of that, and then run this over some spots that need some more coverage, like my chin, because I'm breaking out there for some reason, like I always do. So I'm just going to look around and see where else I need more coverage. So a little bit around my nose. So I'm just going to cover all of the areas that I need to. I kind of try to typically stay away from putting too much foundation underneath my eyes because I'm going to go in with concealer. And the last thing I want is a bunch of product underneath my eyes because that is a sensitive area and it tends to cake up under there. So I'm just going to kind of save that mostly for the concealer. So once I feel like I have enough foundation on, I'm just going to kind of do this around my face, just bounce the Beauty Blender off of it. And this is just going to help pick up any excess foundation, and it's also just going to blend the foundation in really well and make it look a little more natural. So now that I have that base of foundation on, I still have a couple areas that need to be covered up, like a couple spots down here on my chin, and then obviously I need to go underneath my eyes because I have some slight bags under there, but nothing crazy. But I do just like to cover those up with concealer, and then I like to highlight with concealer too. So typically I kind of go through a few different concealers, so I'm just going to start out with my Anastasia Beverly Hills concealer in the shade 0.5. This is kind of a thick, almost moussey concealer. It's really nice at covering dark circles, and I'm sure it would be great at covering blemishes as well, but I don't use this to cover blemishes because it's too light for my skin tone, which is weird, I know. So I'm just going to take this on my finger and start dabbing it lightly underneath my eye. Just going to dab it out like this. I don't try to make it too thick under here, but I basically just put my finger in the pot, lift up, and then put it underneath my eyes. A little bit goes a really long way with this stuff. And then I'm going to take my Beauty Blender and just blend everything out. So sometimes I use my Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer instead, but typically I kind of just switch back and forth between the two. I'm running really low on my naked skin, so I'm just trying to save it for as long as I can. But sometimes I also mix the two, so I think that's what I'm going to do today. So once all that is blended out, I just take whatever is left over on the sponge, and I just run this really lightly over my eyelids because this can kind of act as an eye primer. I find that it's way easier and it works just the same to run some concealer over your eyelids. Okay, so now I'm switching to my Urban Decay Naked Skin Concealer, and this is in the shade Fair Neutral. This was the lightest shade that they have, and it's perfect for highlighting my skin. So I'm just going to take this underneath the Anastasia concealer. I'm not going to put it over the top. I'm just going to drag it down to the very tops of my cheekbones just to get that highlighted effect. And I am dragging it up past my eye towards my temple as well. Going really lightly down my nose as well. I also kind of like to go around my nostrils just a little bit because they tend to be red right there. And a little bit on my chin. And then I do a few lines right there on my forehead. So I'm basically just highlighting every area of my face that I want to enhance and make look like it's protruding forward. I'm sure you guys know all about highlighting and contouring though. So now I'm just going to take my Beauty Blender and go over it just like I did with the other concealer and the foundation. I'm just going to blend the two together. With the Beauty Blender, you don't want to swipe it across your face. You just want to do these dabbing motions, because if you were to swipe, it would just take away all the product that you just laid down. So this really helps when you're pouncing it off your face like this to blend all of the different products together. Okay, so I have all the highlighting down, but I just need to cover some blemishes with concealer. I've been liking the Master Conceal by Maybelline, and this is in the shade 10 Fair. I don't know why, I don't... What? Okay, guess I'll just start throwing stuff. So I am using 3 different concealers. I know that seems kind of excessive, but for covering my blemishes, I need to use a concealer that actually matches my skin tone, and the previous 2 that I just used are way too light. So when you're going for spot concealing, just make sure that you use one that actually matches your skin tone, because the last thing you want to do is highlight your blemishes. So I'm just going to take the tiniest amount of this out on the back of my hand. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's just the tiniest amount right there. I'm just going to take the very tip of the Beauty Blender, just dab it in there once, and then dab that over my spots. And I'm not pressing too hard because I don't want to completely lift up the concealer that we just put down, like I said. Okay, so once those spots are sufficiently covered up, I'm going to go in with my Laura Mercier Translucent Loose Setting Powder. I got this a few months ago from Sephora, and it is just the best setting powder that I've ever used. This is so finely milled, and it's just so nice and soft that it just makes your skin look actually airbrushed and almost perfect, which is kind of crazy. So I just tap out a little bit in the lid like that, and I'm just going to take my Beauty Blender and just dab it in there until it gets about that much on it. And I'm just going to run this along wherever we put the concealer down. I know it seems kind of weird to use a Beauty Blender to put down powder, but just trust me, you guys. Oh, this is damp, by the way, too, so make sure you get this damp. But yeah, I'm telling you guys, it just makes it look amazing. Try it with a brush and then try it with a Beauty Blender if you have one. Also, this is kind of dirty right now, so forgive me, but the Real Technique sponge is really good as well. And I'm making sure I get right up into this corner right underneath my eye, and this is just going to help prevent any creasing. If you tend to crease underneath your eye, this powder is really good for preventing that. So I'm also going to bring this down my nose, and sometimes I get way too much powder on there, which is totally fine. I don't really typically do the whole baking thing where people set just a bunch of powder on their face and then brush it off 10 minutes or so later, but if I do get an excess amount on it, that's fine. I'll just kind of blend it out like that, bring it down the sides of my nose, and then I always remember to get this area, these laugh lines, see these guys? These always tend to crease on me throughout the day, so I just make sure that I get enough powder in there. And then I'm just going to bring some up in the middle of my forehead where we also put that concealer. I also like to take this along where I contour, and I just apply the tiniest amount along there, just because when you're contouring with a powder, it's easier to blend it over the top of another powder rather than straight on top of the foundation and concealer. So I'm just going to take a little bit less than what we were using before and just kind of run this along underneath my cheekbone where I'm going to be putting that contour. And one of the things I really like about this powder is that it doesn't really give you a white cast. You know how sometimes when you're using like a pure white translucent setting powder, it'll kind of make your face look way more pale than it is. Oh, and I'm also just going to set this foundation up near my hairline because I do contour up there as well. And this powder also helps to give you kind of a more mattified look. Like I said earlier, the foundation was just a little bit on the dewy side, so it wasn't completely matte. So if you do like the more matte finish foundations, just use a setting powder like this and that'll take away any dewiness. So as far as contouring goes, I don't do any cream contouring usually on a day-to-day basis. I just do the powder. Okay, so I usually switch between 2 products. These are my favorite ones to contour with. This is NYX Taupe Blush and this is Inglot 504 Sculpting Powder. They're both just really super cool toned contour shades and they look really good on pale skin. And I think for today I'm going to use the NYX Taupe just because I feel like I haven't used this in a video in a while. Maybe I have, I don't know. And I'm just going to take this on the Royal & Langnickel Silk Pro Contour C120 brush. So I'm just going to take a little bit on the brush, tap off the excess, and I'm just going to work this into my cheekbone. So I'm starting with most of the product back here and I'm going in kind of back and forth motions, and then I'm also working it up in circular motions. You don't want to blend down, or at least I don't want to blend down, just because that doesn't really lift the cheekbones, so that's why I'm blending up. It just helps lift the cheekbones and give your face more structure. So I'm going back in and adding a little bit more product back here, and then I'm just going to start blending it towards my mouth. So I'm also extending the contour up to my temple and across my hairline, and I'm making sure to blend this into my hairline as best as I can. So I'm just making sure to blend it into my baby hairs. And then since I have a pretty big forehead, I'm going to contour the top of it, just going to run that along the hairline so it gives it the illusion that it's a little bit shorter than it is. I also just like to do this because it kind of looks weird on me, at least, if I only contour my cheekbones and then don't extend it anywhere else on my face. So I'm just kind of balancing out the deeper color. So then once I get all the way across my forehead, I'm just going to go down to the other cheekbone and work on sculpting that one out. So I don't really think that contouring my jawline is necessary, but I just do it anyways just because, like I said, I kind of like to balance out the contour around my face. So I'm just going to take the tiniest amount on this brush and just really lightly, like I'm barely pushing the bristles up against my jawbone, I'm really lightly contouring that area. So when my friend Megan came down from Canada a couple months ago to visit, she did something that kind of blew my mind. We were doing our makeup together and she took her beauty blender after she had powder contoured and everything, and she just went like this to blend it into her skin, and it made it look even more blended than it was before. So I've been doing that recently and I really like it. It just kind of helps the powder blend even more into your skin so it looks even more like seamlessly blended. I know it sounds crazy, but it really works. So I'm just gonna really, really lightly dab this over everywhere that I just contoured. Also, if you get too much powder contour on and you're like, holy shit, what do? I just put way too much on, you can take this and go over it and that'll help tone it down. So after contouring, I move right along to highlighting, and today I'm going to use the highlighter that I made. If you guys don't know, I made pressed powder highlights. I am still working on trying to make these available for you guys, so hopefully it won't take too much longer, but I just made this because it's really hard for me as someone with pretty pale skin to find a highlighter that actually stands out on my skin. So anyways, I just went and made my own thing, but you guys have heard this before, so I'll just get along with it. If you have the Mary Luminizer by The Balm, that is pretty good as well. Another one that I really like is this Illuminating Blush Stripes kind of quad type thing by Ofra Cosmetics. What I do is I just focus on this white one up here and I just use that one alone to highlight, so that's another option. And the brush that I like to use to highlight with is just the perfect size fan brush for highlighting. It's kind of fluffy, so it's not just going to leave like a straight line of highlight on your face. Anyways, it's the Eve Pearl 110 fan slash blush brush. So I'm just going to take it across the highlight like this, and then I'm just going to place this on the highest points of my cheekbones. I like to go for the highlight and then the blush because I feel like putting highlighter on and then blush kind of helps to diffuse some of the highlight. So I'm just going to blend this in circular motions. I'm kind of extending it down to my cheek because I like to be able to see the highlight from the front and from the side. I just really like a really strong highlight. I'm just going to bring it up along the side of my eye, kind of towards the front of my temple, because I want this highlight to be kind of in a C shape. So I'm going to extend it from down here all the way to up here, because this is where the light typically hits the side of your face. And then I'm just going to brush a little bit on this side of my forehead up here. I try to keep it a little bit toned down on my forehead, so if I get too much up there, I'm just going to take my beauty blender and just dab it out. So I'm also going to take this in the center of the top of my nose, right in between my eyes. Going to blend it out a little bit, and then I'm going to highlight the tip of my nose. I'm also just going to apply a little bit of this on my Cupid's bow with my finger. Alright, so that is it for the highlight, so now I'm going to move on to blush, and I'm going to be using Spellbound by Makeup Geek, so it's just this matte kind of dusty rose pink right here. This is the blush that I use pretty much on a day-to-day basis. I don't really have that many blushes to pick from in the first place, but this one is really nice. And I'm going to apply this using the Smith 118 brush, and then just apply it in between the highlight and the contour. So once I get the blush on, I'm going to take this big fluffy brush. I'm just going to blend everything together. So on a day-to-day basis, I don't really ever use a setting spray or anything like that. I mean, sometimes I will if it's like in the summertime and it's really hot out, but since it's fall/winter now, I don't really need to set this with anything. I feel like this foundation routine actually stays on for a really long time anyways, so I don't really need the setting spray. And that's pretty much it for the face routine, but since I have you guys here, I'll just finish my eyebrows and eyes and stuff. So I'm going to go in with my Taupe Dip Brow by Anastasia. I'm just going to take this on a Pony Cosmetics brow brush and fill these in real quick. So I'm going to keep the eyes fairly simple since I'm just kind of focusing on the skin today. So I'm going to take Vanilla by the Saucebox Battle Lash palette. I'm just going to run this all along my lid. And then just to add some depth and dimension, I'm going to take Winter Brown. I'm going to buff this into the crease on the outer part of my eye using the Smith 230. So for mascara, I'm going to take this mascara that I got in my BoxyCharm in October, and it's the Punk Volumizer Mascara. And then for the lips, I'm just going to take this lip pencil by Eve Pearl. It's called Cosmo. I'm going to use this to outline my lips and then fill them in. Alright you guys, so that's it for my current updated foundation, contour, and highlight routine. I hope you guys like this video. Let me know what your favorite foundations, highlights, contours are, because I always am looking for new stuff to try out. Anyways, I'll have all the products and stuff that I use listed down below, as well as the brushes, sponges, all of the like applicating tools that I use too. Anyways, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!